A part of my brain is telling me I'm not supposed to be here. There's been a mistake. How could someone like me, someone so ordinary, be standing here to give a TEDx talk? Psychologists call that the impostor syndrome. And it's not the first time I felt this way, and it's not going to be the last. So here I am, an average, ordinary person who is involved in extraordinary things that resulted in the invitation of me being here today. Would you like to know how? Would you like to know how volunteering led me to the United Nations? The answer to that starts with a journey that began in September 2014 to Mecca. Yes, that's right. I'm Muslim. We come in all shapes, color, sizes, ethnicities, and nationalities. I went to Mecca to perform Hajj, which is a holy pilgrimage. It is mandatory for all Muslims as long as their health and financial disposition allows. It was in Mecca where I saw a multitude of nationalities that came together in harmony, focused in one cause, peacefully working together in unity. I was so inspired, and I prayed to God, please help me bring this level of unity to my beautiful community of Nova Scotia. Upon my return, an opportunity presented itself, and that's where I volunteered and became involved in the planning of a festival. My duties included organizing the entertainment for the stage performances and being the MC of the show. This experience made me realize I had the ability to coordinate large events as well as the skill to speak on stage. Hajj was the first thing that changed my life. The second was the picture of a little boy lying face down on the beach by the name of Ilan Kurdi, a little Syrian refugee who died seeking safety like so many others. The image was seared in my mind, and I felt compelled to do something about it. So I came up with an idea. I reached out to a couple of my girlfriends and shared my vision of a fundraiser that would raise money to help Syrian refugees. My friends were enthusiastic, but cautious because of the scope of my plan. They said, Rana, our community is not large enough to fill a huge venue, and don't expect to raise all the funds in one night to sponsor a family. I said, but that's where I'm going to do something different. I'm not reaching or focusing just on the Muslim community. I'm going to reach out to all the different communities and invite them to be part of this common cause. So I reached out to all the masjids through the Imam Council of Nova Scotia and personally visited them. I also went to the churches, I went to the Sikh temple, I invited the Hindu community and all the other communities and said, come, be part of this fundraiser. I encouraged them to purchase a table of 10, and that would allow for the organizations to have their name on it so they could be seen as supporting the Syrian refugees, especially if the media showed up. United for One Association was born. On that night, our event, the venue of 400 was full. We were sold out and above. We raised, by the end of the evening, $200,000 to sponsor Syrian refugees. I couldn't believe it. We were so inspired. We were so emotional. There was shock. No one could believe that in one night we were able to raise so much money within 1.5 hours. That is the beauty of unity. As a result of this work, I was invited to the welcoming committee by iSense, the Immigrant Services Association of Nova Scotia, which was created to help with the settlement of the newcomers. While volunteering in this committee, we had a discussion about the trauma that the Syrian families would be facing, especially the women and the children, and the challenges of being in a new country. So I decided to join an immigrant women's group, thinking the best way to help the Syrian women and their children was to offer various programs that they could enjoy while meeting mothers from other diverse communities. And sure enough, it was the right decision, and it was very successful. In 2016, I joined Interfaith Halifax Harmony Committee. It's comprised of people from various diverse faiths, and they plan an annual event in February where sacred spaces open up their doors, invite the public to come and visit, to observe, to ask questions, and to participate if desired. I can tell you this is one of the most uplifting groups I have been ever a part of, and they are supportive, encouraging, and I feel blessed to be with them for the last 3 years. The next volunteering opportunity came in a post in a Halifax Muslim Facebook group, where a video was shared of a masjid in the United Kingdom that was serving food to the homeless. There was enough interest in the community to do something similar here, so I organized a meeting where people came together, and out of that, we started an organization called the Caring Human Association. Together, we were able to serve our first meal out of the Ummah Masjid, the first ever in Nova Scotia. And we continued to do so by making home-cooked meals and serving them to the various shelters around the city, as well as helping with hygienic product drives when in times of their need. Remember that first festival that I told you about that started my road off to event planning? Well, that was a Pakistani festival, and people enjoyed it so much that they wanted to know when it was going to happen again. But most weren't willing to step forward. No one wanted to take the risk nor the responsibility of building a new organization. After numerous attempts and refusals, I took the lead. I dragged a young fellow along with me to be the treasurer, reached out to a couple more community members and who were willing to become board members. I invited Dalhousie's Pakistani Student Association to be part of the board, and we had the beginning of PCANS, Pakistani Canadian Association of Nova Scotia, because I like nuts. So you can see that now I am probably in my 4th committee. We arranged community events, special celebration days, and of course a Pakistani festival full of fun and food. Now you can see a pattern emerging. Each organization, each event leads towards more and more interaction with members outside of our community. Each successful event is helping to build bridges. Now, all the various events were covered by media, articles were written, so my face and name was slowly becoming prominent. At this point, I came to the attention of a couple political parties, and I agreed to meet with one, and that was the leader of the NDP. Long story short, I ran in the past provincial election in 2016 for MLA and became the first Pakistani Muslim woman in the history of Nova Scotia to even run. The venture into politics lasted for about 30 days, which is the duration of the election. However, it opened up a doorway into activism. When you get involved in politics, you learn a lot about what's around you, what's in the news, what's happening. So then my social media page, Rana Zaman -NDP, became Rana Zaman -Social Activist. I continued volunteering, but now as an activist, I was either attending rallies or organizing them and posting on my Facebook page to raise the awareness. I started following other activists who became my role models and helped me to learn and understand the different ways my voice could have an effect. There were some hard lessons to be learned, and it was a sort of a baptism through fire, the fire of social media, and the onslaught that can occur when you write about the status quo that reveals the hard truth of white privilege and racism, or you can find yourself the target of those wanting to discredit your work for whatever reasons. Needless to say, like any good metal that is exposed to fire and forged by experienced hands, I came out well-tempered, stronger, sharper, with skills honed to a razor's edge to fight another day. My work with immigrants and refugees and articles on bullying, racism, Islamophobia, and human rights violations was gaining recognition. And I was being invited to speak as a panelist or as a guest speaker at various events. My favorite presentations were as a Muslim practitioner to students studying religious studies. Here I was able to educate, dispel the stereotyping and negative rhetoric against Muslims. My favorite part was the little exercise I did with the students. Would you like to see how it works? Yes. Okay. For it to work effectively, you must close your eyes and not open them until I tell you to. So close your eyes, no peeking. Now think about different words to describe my personality so far from what you've seen and observed. What are some of the adjectives? How do I make you feel? What do you think of me? All right, open them. How do I look? I see the surprised look on some of your faces. It's amazing how a small piece of cloth can affect some people, and for others, change their perception. I have not changed in any way, and my personality is still the same. Only my outward appearance has changed. This is what people see first and come to judge or fear. The person, without even knowing who they are, simply because they wear the hijab or the niqab every day. This is the power of negative media and the divisive politicians and the challenge we face working towards true solidarity. The exercise is an example of how volunteering can lead to educating and opening dialogue among people of all diverse faiths. Volunteering increases your social network and your personal one. Being seen and heard allows people to get to know you and add you to their network. So when an opportunity comes up that relates to your work, they will reach out to you. This is why volunteering can be a very helpful in connecting you to a job that you are passionate about. I'm sure you're wondering, I'm almost halfway through my time, and I haven't mentioned the thing about the United Nations. Did it really happen? Well, yes, it did. And I have photos on social media to prove it. Because you know, these days, if you don't have a picture to prove it, it never really happened. I was invited to be part of the roundtable on women, peace, and security, where we made suggestions in the hopes of the success of a motion which called for the appointment of an ambassador for women's peace. Here I met a wonderful group of women from VOW, Voice of Women for Peace. I was speaking to a lovely young woman who was telling me enthusiastically about her organization and how they had delegates go to the United Nations each year, and that I should consider joining it. I did, and at their next meeting, and coincidentally enough, they had a conference coming up in Toronto at the same time when I was going to be there for another AGM. Fate was definitely at play here. I was overwhelmed by this small and mighty group of women who had such accumulated knowledge and experience that would take me 2 lifetimes to learn. From day one, this beautiful group of ladies have nothing but been supportive and empowering me to believe that I can make a difference. I started working with these wonderful women by attending rallies and other events. I learned a lot from the conference in Toronto and came back passionate about denuclearization and disarmament and the importance of dialogue over war. The time came when an email was sent out to invite members to apply to be the delegate for the United Nations. I went through the email, saw all the questions, and even after all these accomplishments, I still doubted myself, and I didn't fill it. One evening, I received a phone call from a friend. We talked about the United Nations, it just came up, and it was this friend who convinced me to apply in the end and reminded me of the value of the work that I had done up until now. I said, "Do you really think I qualify?" The answer was an emphatic yes. Then I said, "Well, you better hang up because it's 10 o'clock and I just checked the email and it's due by 11. So picture this, 10:05 p.m., I'm opening up the email. It has a slew of questions and a place to list your achievements. I had luck on my side because recently I had been asked to submit my bio with all my achievements and the awards I had received. So copy-paste was my hero that night. By the time I finished the application, it was 10 minutes to 11 when I pressed send. I was so nervous by the email that it may not make it in time. I contacted the president to let her know I had sent it out. And again, fate, she happened to be up at almost 11 o'clock at night, which normally never happens. Approximately a month later, I received an email saying, congratulations, you have been chosen to be a VOW delegate to attend the 63rd session of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. Wow. I was so shocked and surprised that I didn't tell anyone, including my own children, for a week. Because I was thinking, there must have been a mistake. And any time now, they're going to send me an email and tell me that it was a mistake. Due to the time limitation, I've skipped a lot of other organizations that I joined before VOW, but I think you have a clear picture on how the simple act of volunteering turned into activism, ended up with me as a delegate to the United Nations. A simple mom of 3, a domestic engineer, housewife, who was given the opportunity to speak to dignitaries, politicians, panelists, and wonderful speakers from around the world. I went with an amazing group of women from VOW and got to meet an incredible group of women from everywhere who were doing phenomenal things with limited resources to help other women in their communities. But that's another story for another day. I would not be here today if it were not for wonderful women in my life or almost strangers who saw potential and came to me at different points to encourage, support, and in some cases challenge me into achieving things that I would not have imagined possible. I'd like to leave you with this. Be the person to recognize the potential and achievements of another and to encourage them and nourish them. Through this continuous act of empowerment, we will lift each other up into a society that cares for, nurtures one another, and works for the betterment of all. That is the beauty of empowerment, started by the simple act of volunteering. Thank you.